It's finally time! FGO's biggest servant is getting ready to make her NA debut, so I hope you have your Saint Quartz ready. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, and at long last, I'm here to bring you a spotlight for the balancer of metas, the Thanos of FGO herself, Castoria.
Pretty, isn't it? Perfectly balanced, this whole thing should be.
We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 5-star servants. So if you're ready to see Castoria snap half of the tier list out of existence, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring my bell so that you can catch all of these spotlight videos as they go up, and you can help out the channel. But for now, on to Castoria's stats. Castoria has a max HP of 14,406 and a max attack of 10,546, which becomes 9,491 due to her caster class modifier. She has very high HP even for a caster, but her attack stat is below average for her class. Similarly, her HP is well above average for an SSR servant overall, but her attack is woefully low. When it comes to her command cards, Artoria has 3 hits on her quick card, 3 hits on her arts, 3 hits on her buster, and 5 hits on her extra card. She has an NP gain rate of 0.54% and a star rate of 11%. Despite her low NP gain rate, Castoria does have good NP gain, mostly due to her deck and passives. She does however have below average star generating. Overall, Castoria's stats are in line with what a support should be. High defense and utility, but little offense. Taking a look at her skills, Castoria's first skill is Charisma of Hope rank B. This skill increases the party's attack for 3 turns between 10 and 20%, and also charges the party's NP gauge between 20 and 30%, both depending on level. Her second skill is Protection of the Lake rank A, which charges one ally's NP gauge between 10 and 20%, and increases the party's NP generation for 3 turns between 20 and 30%, both depending on level. And finally, Artoria's last skill is Caliburn Sword of Selection rank EX. This skill increases one ally's arch card effectiveness for 3 turns between 30 and 50%. It also increases their damage against threat to humanity enemies for 3 turns, also between 30 and 50%, both depending on level. And finally, it does grant them 1 turn of invincibility. As for her passives, Castoria has Magic Resistance rank A, which increases her debuff resist by 20%, Territory Creation rank EX, which increases her arch card effectiveness by 12%, One's Own Magic rank B, which increases the critical damage of her arch cards by 10%, and Fey Eyes rank A, which increases her own critical attack chance resistance by 20%. Moving on to her deck and Noble Phantasm, Castoria has an Arts deck with Quick Arts Buster and an Arts Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is around Caliburn. It increases the party's attack for 3 turns between 30 and 50% depending on level. It also removes the party's debuffs, and it grants the party an anti-purge defensive buff, shielding them from damage between 1 and 5 times depending on overcharge. For Ascension, Castoria is going to need 9 Yggdrasil Seeds, 10 Pages, 6 Spirit Roots, and 5 Comet Shards. Yggdrasil Seeds can be farmed at Fallen Babylonia in Babylon, where they have a 49% drop rate. Pages have a 30% drop rate at Shinjuku 2 Chome in Shinjuku. Spirit Roots drop at the Holy City in Camelot with a 12% drop rate, and Comet Shards also have a 12% drop rate at the Machina Corridor in Olympus. For her skills, Castoria is going to need 15 Pages, 18 seeds, 11 eggs, and 10 shards per skill. Eggs drop at the Vol in Lost Belt 4, where they have a 12% drop rate. I'm not kidding when I say that it would be easier for me to list all of the things that Castoria can't do than it would be for me to explain what she can do and keep the video under 15 minutes. But I'm gonna try anyway. There's no beating around the bush, Castoria is the best support and probably the best servant in all of FGO. Her stats are in line with most SSR supports: high HP, good NP gain, and low attack. Funny enough, she even shares an HP stat with Scotty. But where Castoria really starts to shine stat-wise is in her passives. Territory Creation EX is a remarkably strong passive for an art support, because it allows her to charge her NP much quicker, and it helps that she has a triple arts deck, so that she can take full advantage of it. Castoria will have an even easier time spamming out her Noble Phantasm than most other supports. And that's saying something because it's pretty incredible. But we'll get to that later. First, let's talk about her skills. All of Castoria's skills are designed to increase an ally's NP gain and charge their Noble Phantasm, kind of like a combination of Waver and Tamamo. Charisma of Hope is a charisma with a 30% NP charge for the party tied to it. Protection of the Lake not only gives an ally 20% NP charge, but 30% NP gain as well, which lasts for 3 turns, so it's perfect for facilitating 3-turn farming. And Caliburn of Selection is literally Fox Wedding, but somehow even better, because on top of the 3-turn Arts Mana Burst, again, perfect for looping, it also buffs damage against threats to humanity and gives straight up invincibility. Now, there aren't that many threat to humanity enemies, so this part of the skill won't come up that much, aside from the occasional foreigner battle, but the invincibility and Arts Up are ridiculously strong. Rather than talking about each skill individually like I usually do for these spotlights, I actually want to talk about Castoria's kit as a whole, because these skills are designed to be used together and they synergize with each other. By using all of her skills, Castoria alone can give one ally an 80% buff to their arts card damage, 80% NP gain up, and 50% NP charge. These are absurd buffs. To put that into perspective, you would need to have Waver and Tamamo activate all of their support skills, and then swap in Paracelsus and use his NP gain buff just to outdo the amount of NP gain, NP charge, and arts buffing that one Castoria alone can give you. And that's to say nothing about using 2 Castorias. Simply put, the amount of raw arts buffing and NP battery that Castoria gives is unmatched. A double Castoria team can give nearly every AoE art servant the ability to loop, including many free-to-play art servants like Jason, and that's another point that gives Castoria incredible value compared to the other farming supports. She isn't selective like Scotty is. Scotty can only enable 3-turn farming with some select quick servants, and only under certain conditions like high NP levels. Castoria does away with a lot of that and makes it very easy for nearly any art servant to 3-turn farm, so long as you have at least a 50% NP charge CE. This makes Castoria very free-to-play friendly and extremely easy to build around. Of course, there are some servants who will always be better suited for farming than others, but giving every player the ability to easily and efficiently farm during most of the free quests is probably Castoria's best trait. Skill priority for Castoria is kind of impossible to decide on though, because all of her skills are equally broken, and you need to use all of them in tandem to get the maximum effect. That said though, I do like going Charisma first just for the higher NP charge, followed by Protection of the Lake, and then Caliburn, but you should level all of them simultaneously if you can. And mana loading is the only append skill that she really needs. Now, while her skills make her an unparalleled NP battery, it isn't just about farming with Castoria. She also excels in stall strategies, and this is where we talk about her Noble Phantasm. It's a party-wide buff that increases the attack of all allies, removes all debuffs from the party, and grants a special impenetrable invincibility to all allies. The anti-purge invincibility cannot be pierced even by enemies with invincibility piercing NPs. And this is the reason why Castoria is not only top tier among farming supports, but challenge quests as well. Her Noble Phantasm grants the best form of protection in the game, a form of hard defense that as of right now, only she can give, and it also removes all debuffs. Oh yeah, and that attack buff isn't too shabby either. In fact, it could even be useful for farming if your farmer is lacking damage due to low NP level. Now remember that thing I said earlier in the video about Castoria having very strong NP gain? Yeah, that's why it was important. Castoria's NP is flat out broken, and the fact that she can spam it out means that she can single-handedly keep the entire party clear of all debuffs, and protect everyone from almost any enemy Noble Phantasm, even those that pierce invincibility. So it's an even stronger version of Jean's Noble Phantasm. So Castoria is a top tier damage buffer who can provide over 100% additional damage buffs from her kit. She's the game's best farming support due to her combination of NP charge and NP gain buffs. And she is an elite challenge quest support because her Noble Phantasm is basically Jean's on steroids. I hope you can see why she's considered to be the best servant in FGO. But there is one additional aspect of Castoria that I think takes her above and beyond, and that's her ease of use and versatility. Castoria's kit makes her an ideal support to bring along for any type of content, and she also has such powerful and generally applicable buffs that she can be paired with any art servant and make them 10 times better. Whether they're a lowly 1-star like Jason or a top tier SSR like Space Ishtar. Castoria elevates all art servants tremendously, and that not only makes her a good pickup for whales and veterans who are looking to min-max their farming, but also for brand new players and free-to-play players who want to get as much value from their servants as possible. Even if you don't roll for her, and you just pick her up from your friends list, Castoria makes the game much more accessible and easier to grind for everyone. Now, while I did make the joke about Castoria Thanos snapping away the meta earlier in this video, on a serious note, I do want to dispel the notion that she takes away any value from other top tier supports. Castoria may be a one-size-fits-all solution at support, but that doesn't make servants like Waver or Tamamo any less powerful, and in fact, they actually work really well alongside Castoria. Tamamo, Mosh, and Waver are all excellent supports to pair with Castoria in various circumstances. Tamamo and Mosh complement Castoria's skill set in challenge quests with their extra bit of utility, cooldown reduction, and healing. And even if you don't pull Castoria, if you picked up Waver with your free SSR ticket, then you can use a friend's Castoria and your Waver to make for an extremely effective 3-turn farming setup in most nodes. As for which servants make for the best farmers, like I mentioned, any AoE art servant with more than one hit on their Noble Phantasm is going to be able to loop with Castoria. But Sieg, Summer Musashi, and Space Ishtar are particularly strong farmers. Sieg is a great free-to-play option due to his already good looping capability and high NP damage. Summer Musashi has class advantage over nearly every enemy, which makes her strong enough to farm even the most bulky enemy waves. And Space Ishtar's NP charge allows her to even effectively 3-turn nodes with irregular enemy waves instead of the traditional 3-3-3, which, you know, would have come in handy for the Requiem event. Castoria's Bond CE is the promised moment. It increases the party's attack and NP gain by 10%, and this is actually a very strong Bond CE. As a support, Castoria should be buffing the team, and this helps her do just that while giving some very relevant buffs that will actually help with farming, so I highly recommend using this. Other than her Bond CE though, other support craft essences like 2030, Prisma Cosmos, and General Meeting are all great on Castoria. There aren't really any upcoming CEs that are super important to Castoria, but if you happen to get Turning the Tides, then that can be somewhat useful since it does increase her NP gain and overcharge level for a better shield. As for command codes, I like Mages of Flowers because it helps Castoria charge her Noble Phantasm, which comes in handy for boss fights. Overall, Castoria is by far and away the most impactful and powerful support that we've seen in FGO since Merlin. She provides it all. Her NP battery skills allow her to turn almost any AoE art servant into an efficient farmer. She single-handedly enables the best farming stretch in the game for endgame players. Her plethora of buffs and defensive utility make her an excellent support in story content and challenge quests. And best of all, she's incredibly easy to use, fits into almost any team comp, and provides immediate value for players at all levels. So Castoria gets the coveted EX rank from me, an honor that only she and Merlin share. To me, the mark of a meta-defining servant is one that can change the way the game is played and how you build teams even if you don't have them. And that is certainly something that Castoria does. Even if you don't pull Castoria, many of you are going to solely build farming teams around the one Castoria that you can get from your friends list. And if a servant that you don't even have can dictate how you build your team, that's saying something. Either way, I think everyone should go for Castoria. Even if you don't pull any other 5 stars for the rest of the year, she alone will be worth it. And those are my thoughts on Castoria. I know I sucked her off a lot in this video, but to be honest, she kinda deserves it because she's super OP, and also I'm much more concerned with making sure that everyone knows exactly what she's capable of doing and what value she offers to all types of players, rather than just dunking on her for some minor flaws. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over on our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter, all linked in the description down below, and I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. Soberoni out. Later.